Hello neighbors, it's Brad here at eTrailer, and today we're taking a look at the Firestone Air Command Standard Duty Onboard Air Compressor for single path bags. Now this is going to be able to be controlled with two different methods, so whether you're using the remote that's included or even the app on your phone. If you're looking at a compressor for your airbags, more than likely you realize that the adjustability of airbags is great, but to have to hop out and fill or drop pressure as you're driving is rather inconvenient, especially in inclement weather. And it's really nice to be able to adjust it on the fly so you can immediately see the differences at what that pressure is going to do for the load that you're hauling. Also, being able to see the pressure at all times and not have to worry if you have a slow leak or something along those lines, or having to maintain the 5 psi minimum is really a benefit of an onboard compressor. Now this one's designed for single path, so that means this is going to pump pressure into the bags evenly, so you're not going to be able to have individual control of each bag, but overall I've found unless you have really off-center loads, it's really not that big of a deal. You're still getting all that adjustability. And this one being standard duty means that it's going to maintain that 5 psi for your bags and go all the way up to 100 psi. So this is going to work for a good majority of different bags. Today we have the Airlift Load Lifter 5000s, and it works perfectly fine. So if your bags go up to a maximum of 100, so can this compressor. But if you do have heavy duty bags, the red labels come to mind, those go up to 150 psi, and if that's the case, you're going to want to go with a heavy duty compressor. Now, being that it's standard duty, this is actually one of the smaller compressors that I've seen, and there's no extra storage tank. So you're not going to be running any power tools off of this, or air tools, I should say, or filling up any beach balls or bike tires. But for filling up your air in the bags, for a relatively small footprint, this is going to be a great option. The only downside that I see of a small compressor like this, it's a little bit slower than some of the other ones out there, but really, as long as you're a little bit patient and still have that, availability to adjust on the fly, I don't think you're really missing out on much. With your app downloaded, once you get it all set up to your system, it's going to find it via Bluetooth. You're able to control the pressure. And right now we know that we have 40 psi in our bags. So if I wanted to lower this down to, let's just go to 30, I can just push this down, and then that's going to automatically start to bleed out until we reach that 30 psi. Same thing goes for obviously filling it up. So if we wanted to go to 50 and say, we'll maybe get our pressure set to a trailer that we tow quite often at 50, no problem. Once it's set, we can set memory 1 or 2, so you can have different presets for different trailers. So we have our set point, and this is our actual readout. So once it reaches that 50 psi, it may go over just a little bit, but it'll bring it back to that 50 or whatever your set point may be. When it comes to troubleshooting, it's also nice too, because you can select your faults and it's going to tell you right away if you have any leaks, if you have any compressor problems, pressure issues, whatever it may be. So this is nice. You can just simply go over to the tab with your faults here, and it's going to let you know pretty quickly if you need to address any issues. You also have a status tab, which will show when we have this bleeding out. So I'm going to go drop this down to, let's just say 38 psi. So on our status, we'll see our valve is on, our compressor is off, we have 12.5 volts, and then we also show our connectivity via Bluetooth. So once we reach our set point, that valve should go back to off. And then if we raise this, we can see that our compressor is going to kick on. So once this starts going, compressor on. So it's nice to know exactly what's going on. That way when you're driving down the road, you don't have to wonder. You can just check those statuses. The included remote is a little bit more basic than what you get with your app, but it's still super usable from the inside of your vehicle. So you have your set point as well as active pressure. So we can drop this down to, I don't know, let's go with 50 psi. So you can see that's what we set it to, and it's going to give you an active readout. And once it gets to that 50 psi, it'll be done. Now, if I wanted to set, this to be my trailer number 1, you still have memory 1 and memory 2 for that. There's also going to be a few other hidden features that you can access by pressing both the buttons. So once we get this down to our 50 psi and it's happy, we'll take a look at that. That's going to allow us to change the brightness of our screen, which is pretty nice. It's not terribly bright right now. But at nighttime it might be a little excessive, but that's pretty nice to be able to do. You also have the timeout of how long it's going to stay on the screen before going into the sleep mode. You can also adjust from PSI to bar, that way you can get different measurements, whatever your preference may be. Now, if we get out of here, we can also take a look. If we hold the two memories together, this will also give you the passcode. So if you want to lock this to where no one can use it unless you put the passcode in, you can absolutely do that. You can also do it via your app. The remote is really nice because it does not use batteries. Most vehicles now have USB availability for 12-volt power, and it uses a USB-C style plug. This is included, so you can plug this in. It does have a battery meter too, so you can know right away if you do need to charge it, or you could just leave this attached and plugged in at all times. It does have a clip that's similar to a garage door opener, so if you want to put this on your visor or wherever you want, you could really mount this wherever. It's a pretty small footprint, which is really nice. And just a pretty easy to use controller that's going to give you that readout right away. But again, say you let the kids play with this and it disappears, you still have your phone to be able to access all of the same features as well as some of those bonus features. Now, I mentioned that this is a little bit slower than your traditional compressors that you see because of the small footprint. That makes it to where you can really mount it up on any vehicle. But as far as the flow rate goes, to get to 0 to 30 psi, it's going to take 17 seconds. And then obviously as you get higher in pressure, it's going to take a little bit longer. So from 0 to 60, it's going to be 42 seconds. Your CFM at 100 psi is going to be 0.32. I think the small footprint is a really great option because it's going to work with just about any vehicle. Sometimes you have to struggle to find a spot to get everything mounted up. And this with a small compressor as well as a small ECU makes it super easy. You're not having to fight for space a whole lot. And this also works not only with the convoluted style bags, but also your slip-in bags that go into your springs. You can also use it for that. Now, you obviously need to be careful that it's not going to go over the 30 psi max on those bags, but it's going to work all the same. It comes with everything you need to get mounted up, including the air filter to get the pressure to the compressor. You also get extra line to tap into your bags. You get all the T push connect fittings to get that all attached. Your ECU, you'll see that we have our plug attached. This is a full wire loom harness that has everything already pre-loomed, which makes it super easy to run the cables into the engine bay to get that 12-volt power and ground. They also have an inline fuse, so that way you're not frying up anything. That fuse is going to pop as a safety rather than damaging any of your components. So overall, a really well thought out system. It's pretty simple when it comes to compressors, but for just standard duty, as the name implies, this is going to be a great option if speed isn't something that you're that concerned about. It still sure beats having to get out of your vehicle and fill up your Schrader valve each time. The compressor and the ECU mount up on the frame of the vehicle. You can kind of get pretty creative with this, and it's going to hold up to any salt spray, chemicals, or extreme temperatures that you might put your vehicle through. Now, the compressor can't be submerged, so if you're trying to do any forging of creeks and maybe do some overlanding and creek crossings, it's something you're going to want to take in consideration. Obviously, you don't want air going into your compressor, but other than that, normal just driving around out on the road, this is going to hold up to all of those extreme potentials and just work every single time you need it to. And that was a look at the Firestone Air Command Standard Duty Air Compressor for single path airbags.